I'm sure the reviewers around the country were most probably fed up with the back teeth with all this publicity surrounding abortion legislation in New South Wales. But I thought I'd say something because I'm certain there are people across the country who aren't aware of what's happening in their state. Now, to just look first at Queensland and Victoria, in Queensland abortion is allowed until birth for any reason, but there are no statistics, so it's impossible to draw any conclusions. Victoria seems to be the abortion legislation model. It's on that legislation that the New South Wales controversial abortion bill has been based. Now, abortion was decriminalised in Victoria in 2008. The first and emphatic thing that should be said is that abortion should not be dealt with under the criminal code. It is in New South Wales, and that will and must change. Abortion is a health issue. There surely is universal agreement that that is how it should be regarded. But back to Victoria, and there are statistics. Abortion is allowed until birth for a range of reasons. Since it was decriminalised in Victoria, late-term abortions have increased by 39%. Abortions for psychosocial reasons have increased by 32%. And between 2009 and 2016, 1,277 babies were aborted for reasons other than the physical health of the mother or the baby. Then you get this horrifying reality of later-term abortions, or what's being referred to as medical mistake abortions. This is frightening. Babies are born alive following a quote-unquote termination. The intention is that they die with no life-saving measures implemented. I understand that in Victoria, between 2008 and 2016, there have been 336 babies who were born alive during an abortion and died after delivery. There is no data as to how long they lived or whether the babies may have lived if brought to term. The New South Wales bill provides for late-term abortion if two doctors approve an abortion after 22 weeks, but the second doctor doesn't even have to see the patient or look at the file. The second doctor doesn't have to be independent. There's no legal penalty if the two-doctor rule is not observed. So surely a law without a penalty is no law at all. The New South Wales bill, as I've said, is modelled on the Victorian experience. It allows late-term abortion for virtually any reason. Physical, psychological and social reasons. That encompasses almost everything. Does this mean if there's a relationship breakdown, you're entitled to a late-term abortion or a financial challenge? One partner loses his or her job. And then this issue of sex selection. Now, of course, there are those who want to say it doesn't happen. Gender selection abortions. Well, it's true, we don't have statistics. And the New South Wales bill says, well, let's see what happens in the first 12 months and then we might review it. There are reports today in Sydney's Daily Telegraph that a woman of Indian descent has revealed a shocking culture of aborting female fetuses within the Sikh community. The woman is quoted as saying one of her family members aborted 17 female fetuses before conceiving a boy. She said her own Sikh husband abandoned her and their 4 daughters after she refused to abort her pregnancies. And she said situations like hers are common within the Sikh community. She said, I'm aware of many Indian Sikh mothers who've flown back to India and checked the fetus by ultrasound. If they find out it's the wrong sex, a female fetus, they'll abort while they're in India on holidays before returning to Australia. She said her ex-husband and mother-in-law pressured her to abort each time she was pregnant with her daughters. And she said, after giving birth to my 4th daughter, my husband told me he'd made a decision to remarry as he wanted a son. She said most Indian Sikhs, I believe, go to great lengths to avoid having a baby girl. It's a cultural thing, and these Indian Sikhs are living in Australia. Now, the point I make is that it's naive to believe that this is not an issue which must be considered in any abortion legislation. And, of course, it comes under the umbrella of abortion on demand. So what's to be done? Well, firstly, I don't think a man should be preaching to a woman about this issue, but I think we are capable of articulating 1 or 2 principles which would seem to cover all concerns without arguing the extreme case that abortion should be outlawed. That is simply an unacceptable position. I'd make 5 points. 1, abortion must be removed from the Crimes Act. That is simple and unarguable. 2, it should be illegal to be used to facilitate sex or gender selection. That should be illegal everywhere. 3, late-term abortions should be illegal unless the health of the mother or the health of the child are at risk. 4, the medical family must be allowed the right to conscientious objection, to not perform an abortion if they have moral or ethical opposition to the practice. If we reach the point whereby a medical person is made to do something they regard as morally wrong, then as Mark Latham, the New South Wales MLC, has said, whenever governments coerce people to act against their religious and moral code, we move one step towards a police state. So that's your fourth point, the right to conscientious objection. And the fifth point is also simple, so-called medical mistake abortions. They must be illegal. That is, if the baby is born alive following a so-called termination, it must be illegal to leave that baby to die without implementing life-saving measures, unless medical opinion determines that termination of life is the necessary, compassionate, medical and ethical outcome. None of this is simple, but the 5 points I've outlined seem to capture the concerns that people have and which could well prejudice sensible responses to the abortion issue.